And again, if you use the live captions, you need to turn on from your side. What you need to do is at the top, you will see 3 dots. And when you put your mouse over it, it says more options. And you need to select the turn on live captions. So even though we turn it on, it will not show on your side. If you want to use the live caption, please turn it on. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar today. First, I would like to introduce ourselves and our center. I am Ismahan Arslan Ari. I am an assistant professor of learning, design, and technologies at the College of Education. I am also the director of South Carolina Center for Assistive Technology and Educational Research. Today, I will present with my colleague, Dr. David Dawson. Dr. Dawson is a clinical associate professor at the School of Medicine and the co-director of the South Carolina Center for Assistive Technology and Educational Research. He has more than 25 years of experience in working with people with disabilities, and I learned a lot from him. Before starting our webinar, I would like to give you a brief information about our center and our current multi-user lab. South Carolina Center for Assistive Technology and Education Research is a collaborative interdisciplinary environment of faculty, professionals, and persons with disabilities working together to enhance the lives of persons with disabilities in the areas of school and transitioning to work. We work with kids, adults, adolescents, and we are located at the campus, just at the Child Development Research Center building. It is 1532 Wheat Street. And with the collaboration with the Child Development Research Center, we established the Students with Disabilities in STEM Multi-User Lab for research, training, and outreach this year. We are, in this lab, we have cutting-edge technologies to undertake critical research on and provide impactful training, outreach, and support for students with disabilities in STEM fields. And we use assistive technologies to support those individuals. And we will be happy to collaborate if you or your students need any support. And we will be, our doors are open, and we are trying to make it fully open, the doors, to everybody. And right now, because of some restrictions, we can accept by appointment. But we hope that in the fall, we will open the lab, almost every day during the week. Okay. Today we will present accessibility apps for smartphones and tablets for educators and students. And as you know, smartphones are in our lives, and they are very important, and sometimes we cannot do without them because we record everything, all the information is in the phones, and there are different options. In that slide, there are 3 types of smartphones. One brand is the Apple. It can be you might have the iPhone, or you can use the LG, and you can use the Samsung Galaxy. And even though it has some advantages, it also has some disadvantages. So while we are using, we also need to consider those advantages. But when we look at the advantages, it is very effective, cost effective, and it is very easy to use the apps, and we can easily access the the knowledge wherever we are, since it is portable and it is very light. We can even put our pocket and just access the the information. We use it for emailing. It is very easy to reach the knowledge and the people we need. And I don't know if you use it, but I use it a lot for the calendar to make my schedule, to remember my events, and even the visit for the fun. But when we look at the cons, sometimes it might be high cost of those devices. The cost must be high, And sometimes it might be difficult to use, especially when we have the new versions, new, the iOS. It always, the change something, and if you update it, sometimes it starts getting difficult to use the devices. And you need to update it for the glitches, bugs, and if you lost it, if you have the stored data, you are gonna lose a lot of personal information. Would you like to add anything, Dr. Dawson?
You're doing groovy.
Okay, and I move forward. And do you know that iPhone has a built-in accessibility feature? Because we said we might sometimes have difficulty to use it. And the people with disabilities or without disabilities, I think it doesn't matter. Sometimes we also use those features. And if you don't know, today we will first talk about the built-in accessibility features of the smartphones, but I will start with the iPhone because I am the iPhone user. And Dr. Darson will talk, a little bit about the Android one. And if you have an iPhone or iPad, please follow the steps I provide to explore the tools, okay? And as you see on the slide, some of the iPod accessibilities are the assistive touch, closed captions, dictation, voiceover, magnifier, all those is very helpful for the people with disabilities. But sometimes I even use the magnifier or the dictation, and especially if I am driving or if I don't want to write long messages, I also use the dictation. And I hope after today's webinar you might want to use it to make your life easier. And if you have your iPhone, here is how to open the iPhone accessibility features. You just need to go to your settings. And in the settings, you just need to scroll down a little bit. And when you scroll down, you are going to see the accessibility. Okay. And you need to click on that feature. And when you click on that feature, all the accessibility features, they are built into the iPhone. And you don't need to pay anything, and it is free for you to use. And now I'm going to, explain some of them. And please feel free to go over with me to explore, and after each explanation I will give you 2 minutes to explore. Okay, first one I am going to talk about is the voiceover. Voiceover is a gesture-based screen reader that lets you enjoy using iPhone even if you don't see the screen. And with voiceover enabled, you just need to just triple click the side or home button, whichever version you use the iPhone, because in iPhone 12 there is no home button, there is a side button. And to access it wherever you are in the iOS. And here a description of everything happening on your screen. And from battery level to who is calling to which app your finger is on. You can also adjust the speaking rate and pitch to suit you, to change the speaking rate when you are in the settings, when you turn on the voiceover. If you the scroll down, you will see the pitch. It is just the sliding bar that you need to change it. So now I will give you 1 minute to try the voiceover. And don't forget, when you make it active, it is going to ask to go to the home screen. So you just need to slide up to go to the home screen, and when you anything that you want them to read, you just need to tap once to select the item, and you need to double tap to activate the selected item. I think this is a trick because the first time I used it, I had a difficulty to understand how to select it. Okay, what you need to do is to select the item, you need to tap once to that item. It can be the menu. Okay, then to activate the selected item, you need to double tap. And if you want to scroll something, you need to use your 3 fingers and swap 3 fingers to scroll.
If you are following along and you also already do have an Android phone and you want to try what's going on, a lot of the instructions that Dr. Ari is offering will also work with the Android, which is slightly different, but you'll be able to follow along. But I'll also talk about it later.
Okay, if you briefly try it, I am going to move to the next one. Okay, the next one is the Zoom. Zoom is a built-in screen magnifier that works wherever you are in the iOS, and it works with all the apps from the App Store. And you turn Zoom on for full screen or picture-in-picture view, allowing you to see the zoomed area in a separate window while keeping the rest of the screen at its native size. And you can adjust the magnification between 100 and 1500% and access multiple filter options in either view. And while you are zoomed in, you can also use all the familiar gestures to navigate your iPhone. And Zoom, if you turn on enable the zoom and the voiceover at the same time, they work together. And so you can better see and hear what is happening on your screen at the same time. And to zoom, after you activate it, after you turn on, to zoom, you need to double tap 3 fingers, okay, on the area that you want to zoom, and drag 3 fingers to move around the screen. The trick is you need to use your 3 fingers. Okay, we tap, we double tap 3 fingers to zoom. And if you want to move around the screen, we drag our 3 fingers. And that zoom even help us if we are reading, a text and which font size is very small. And on the slide, on the right hand side, we have a sample screenshot of one Zoom screen, and at the top right, you will see that there is a newspaper, and in that newspaper there is a the window. This is the area that we want to zoom, and we zoom it, and as you see, the screen, the text size is large, and it says "Views on Globalization Federal Budget." Okay, I'm going to move to the next one. Magnifier. Magnifier works like a digital magnifying glass. You don't need to carry your magnification glass all the time. If you have your phone, you can use your phone as a magnifying glass. And it uses your camera. It uses the camera on your iPhone to increase the size of anything you pointed at. So you can see the details more clearly, and you can use the flash to light the object, adjust filters to help you differentiate the colors, or snap a photo to get a static close-up. And magnifiers let you use your device's camera to quickly magnify your surroundings. And I think, this one, even the elderly people, they can, it is very beneficial for them if you go for shopping, and if you want to, if you cannot read one of, for example, ingredients of one of the, the item, they can easily use it to magnify the text to read it. This is very helpful. And when enabled, you need to triple click the side button or home button, whichever version you have. Then drag the slider to adjust the magnification level. The slider is at the bottom of your, the phone. And to close the magnifier, swipe up from bottom of your screen. It is like you are closing the app. Okay, just to remind you one more time, after you enabled from your settings, okay, if you want to use the magnification, you need to triple click the side button or your home button on your phone. Then drag the slider to adjust the magnification level. The slider is at the bottom of the screen, and to close the magnifier, you just swipe up from the bottom of your screen. And when you turn on your when your magnifier is active, and in addition to the magnification level, if you click on the arrow at the bottom, and you will also see the the brightness. You can adjust the brightness, or you can change the contrast, or you can turn on the flashlight. And since it uses the camera, you don't need to, you can still use it when your phone is locked, because it is using your camera.
Again, feel free. We want you all to be using your phones or trying these out.
Mm-hmm.
One of the few times in classes I actually tell students, ignore me and focus on the phone.
Okay, I'm going to move to the next one, because you can try it more after the webinar, and we want to cover the other apps too, and the spoken content. And if you have a hard time reading the text on your iPhone, and you can use the spoken content to read your emails, iMessages, web pages, and even the books, ebooks. And when you click on the spoken content under the accessibility, you will see two options. The first one is the speak selection, and the second one is the speak screen. The speak selection is used to hear the text you selected. You need to select the text and then just choose the the button, because when it is turned on, the speak selection is turned on. When you tap the speak button, when you select the text, the speak button will appear. Then it will read the text for you. And in the speak screen, you are going to hear the entire screen. And to have it read the entire screen, you need to swipe down with 2 fingers from the top of the screen. It sounds very complex, because it has some shortcuts, but when you use it, it will become automatic. You will get used to use it. And it is like thinking that when we start learning the computers, if we don't know the shortcuts, for example, the copy, Control-C, right? Then we were not comfortable. But if you start using the shortcuts, it makes your life and job easier. It is the same thing. So you just need to maybe practice it more, and you will learn. I hope you are all practicing. Move to the assistive touch. And assistive touch is it adapts the multi-touch screen. And assistive touch lets you to adapt the multi-touch screen to your physical needs. So if you need to change some gestures, like pinch, you can make them accessible with just a tap of a finger. And you can create your own gestures and even customize the layout of the assistive touch menu. And if you want an alternative to pressing the home button, you can activate it with an on-screen tab. And gestures like rotate and shake are available even when your iPhone is mounted on a wheelchair. And the iOS devices support a number of third-party assistive devices that help you interact with your iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch. And to access the assistive touch, under the accessibility menu, you need to click on the touch, and at the top you are going to see the assistive touch, and you need to make it on to access it. And in the next slide here, it shows an example of an assistive touch which was created. For example, in the left one, the Siri favorites home and device is created as an assistive touch. So when they, they don't need to go to the other places to make it. They just need to, for that user, they just need to click on the, the assistive touch, the button, and just select, the option. So you can create your own assistive touch, and you can select the apps that you more commonly use. So you don't need to scroll all the time. And there are other, the accessibility features of the, the iPhones, but I am not going to cover because of the time limits, but those are the main ones that, we enjoy using it. And the last one that I am going to mention is the negative contrast. And, in the accessibility features, you can change the, make some changes on the appearance of the screen, the font size, font type, and, the contrast. And this is the contrast one. And on that slide, there are two screenshots of the home page of the, the one of the iPhone. And on the left one, you will see the colorful one. And, it might be hard for the colorblind people to, recognize, to distinguish some of the buttons. But on the right one, it, it was used, the color contrast, and, you can easily adjust it based on your needs. And I hope you will try all those accessibility features and the others which we cannot cover today. And I hope those will be beneficial and make your life easier. And you can also share with the others, so we can spread the word. Dr. Dawson?
Okay. And Dr. Ari did a great job on this, and a lot of this transfers over to Android phones. One of the reasons why we felt this is important is there's a couple. If we're going to tell you about apps, specific apps to make things accessible, there are hundreds. All right. So before I do apps, one of the things that I like to do in classes, and this is not with my students with disabilities, this is all students. And so students, we have, for those who've been in our presentations before, you've seen that we have a AP toolbar, what we keep on basically Blackboard that they can go for accessibility. But we also have a phone accessibility. And I bring out the phones. And why am I bringing out the phones? Quite honestly, because it's a losing battle if we don't. Phones right now cost more than a computer. All right. And some of these students are putting $3, $4, $5, $6, $1,000 into a phone. And for that reason, they're actually really depending on it, and they're mostly using all the different functions for their everyday life. So one of the things I'd like to teach them is how to make this accessible, how to make sure that they can have their, if they want to read something in class, how can they pull up a journal article? How can they have it read? How can they make it magnified? How could they change the screen for different types? Some person's visual headaches right there, color vision. And so it's really important that before I start showing specific apps, sometimes letting them know all the functionalities of that. And so we will take in class a portion of time that we will literally stop, and then I will have people turn on the phones and we'll explore them. Okay. So Android, by the way, is a unique one on there. Where apps right there, we have Apple, we have Android. When we have Android, one of the interesting thing about Android is there's a lot of variations of this. Even though you may have the Android itself, depending on the phone that you have, if you have a Samsung, if you have a Moto, if you have a Lenovo, whatever, they're all basically could have slight variations on this. All of them have accessibility under the settings menus right there, but they always can be slight variations. One of the things that I like about Android phones is the cheapness of them. This one I have is a Samsung. It is basically runs Android 11.0, so it's running the most current one. It does not require a long-term plan. I'm actually using a really cheap track phone. It cost me $40. And then I put money into it. Since it's Wi-Fi, when I'm on campus and everything, I don't have to worry. Everything's automatic in there. And so when I'm working with students, I'm teaching them that you can use a high-cost phone, or you can use what my students we call burner phones. All right, they're really low cost. If something happens, you can replace it. Students have told me, by the way, at my age, I'm not allowed to say a burner phone. Okay. But it's one that we really like. For Android right there, same thing that you've seen before right there on there. There are a tremendous number of features. The ability to change fonts, the screens, magnifications, auto, one-hand connections, the ability of speaking passwords back. So it really is set up for persons with different types of abilities, different types of things which work best for them. Next screen. So, and I'm hoping that you're actually playing with this and we don't see it that you're playing with it online. So one of the things that, again, with Android, like anything else, when you're going to find that accessibility, students want to know there's a number of ways to find it. The most easiest way is go to your settings menu and find the settings. Click on the settings and you will see something called accessibility. All Android systems, actually all Windows systems, all iPhones have accessibility. There we go. With accessibility, if you press on that one right there, then you may see a different screen. My screen looks different than what you're seeing up here, but it will have things like instead of visibility, it says screen reader. It has visual enhancements, hearing enhancements, interactions. And so it's really looking at functionality, and it's going by functionality. Next screen. Speech to text also may be very different. One of the things that I talk to it, instead of speech to text, for mine, it's called screen reader. And the first thing we do, because it's always right there, is I will click on it and it will actually have something called voice assistant. But more importantly, it will have something called tutorial. And so I have students usually turn on voice assistant, and I'm going to allow it basically right here. You'll hear it in a second. Let me crank up my volume. And if I go to the tutorial feature,
7 items. Double tap to activate.
All right, so the great part about the tutorial is that I take students basically through the tutorial before we do anything else. And what the tutorial does is allows basically students to practice the not only speech and text, but how to control it. It allows them to get some really common knowledge on controlling it because it requires them to do the double tap, does this 3-screen pull. And so when we're going to the other features like zoom text, magnification, everything, they already have a very good grounding for that. And so the very first thing we usually do is go through that tutorial and they get a really good one. Next one. All right. Again, same thing, speech options. One of the things that students totally get after they've been using it is text to speech, is letting them recognize that the more they listen to something, the faster they're going to be able to hear it. So we can actually change the voice. For my voice, I actually download and I have usually British voices, or I have certain type of voices that are more akin to what I like to listen to. But the rate is also what's important. The average person is comfortable at listening between 160 and 170 words a minute. That's kind of average what we speak. For a person listening from text to speech, that becomes very slow feeling after a few minutes. And one of the reasons is your eyes slow you down. Your brain actually is faster than your eyes and your hearing. So one of the things you may want to practice is setting your speed where you're setting it high and getting it a little bit fast, and then going into the reading an article and going to where first your comfort level, which is used again, someone will say 100, some will say fast, medium, slow, fast, and practice that. And then I tell the students to push it a little higher and practice that. And then push it a little higher, practice that. Within basically 2 minutes, I then say, I want you to now go back and listen to that, change this rate to what you started with, and go back and listen to the text, that whatever example of text you were using. And all the students will say the same thing, that it feels slow now. It really seems slow. And the answer is yes. So one of the things that's really an advantage for students, what they find out, is that they can look up journal articles, they can look websites there, and they can actually listen at rates almost twice as fast if they've been practicing as they could reading it or that, and it makes things marginally quicker. Magnifications and everything we have right there are the same things. You'll please follow those through. We cannot underestimate that students, seniors, whoever, we are using more and more the different types of AI systems within. So Google Assist, Siri, Alexa, although I'm waiting to see if she comes on. Oh, she hasn't. Okay, we're good. I'm doing it from my house, so you never know what happens. There are a number of different ones in which I use to, because of that, with the Siri, we can actually cause commands right there, and we can do short features with commands where we can have this now Bluetooth to opening up different products, Bluetooth to doing different things within our environment, but also to actually open up websites, to open up things, to open up your voice recognition. All of these have commands built into them that allow us to use all the accessibility. So you really do not have to touch it. Next slide, please. All right. So I'm going to stop here for right there and just ask, did anyone get to play with those? And if you did, what were some of your experiences? If you were trying this out while we were talking. And if you do, just kind of type it in what there is, because again, this is one that we really want you to interact, play. I want you to listen, but quite honestly, the way you learn this is exploring. And again, this is the way my students learn it. Okay. Once we get to knowing about accessibility, I also work with students and help them with different apps. For reading right there are a number of different types of basically apps that make it easier. There are apps in which we have things which are basically, I don't have to go all through the settings, change the accessibility, that it's already built into this setting. And so FBA, Cool Reader, Audiobook, Overdrive, these are all different types of ways that can help us with our reading. Persons to get text in audio format. Next slide. FB Reader or Cool Reader are two of my favorite. They're one because they're free, but two because of that they work with speech recognition. But they have an crazy amount of features that are really, as you can see in front of you, easy to change the font, easy to change the background. There. Yes. Okay. So it's amazing how we can do this pretty quick. Next one. Audio reader, again, more and more students are using it. We have our books, our textbooks, our literature books can be found online. I actually only look for ones that have audio feedback or audio ones. Again, multimodal learning. Students do better sometimes when they have multi-source, that they're reading as well as they're hearing it. Or if a student cannot basically see it, then having it. And so audiobook, ebooks is a great one that you could put, and it's a number of our features of that. Next one. Overdrive is, again, Melissa offered right there. It's great for library books. And it allows for a number of students that I will recommend to students, especially if they're trying to buy or if there's one there, I'll say, have you looked at your local library? And have you really taken a look at what books are available? Now, I will tell you that if you're working with a high schooler or a middle schooler and you are doing this, to jump on it early and tell them early, because of that parents know this and they're getting out there, and you see a lot of those books checked out early. There's only limited. So you can have 10 downloads on there. You get usually 3 weeks right there. And you can actually, if you don't have it, you can go on a waiting list. But it's totally free, and there's more and more of these available. I will also tell you that one of the things I have learned is that sometimes I will pay a short amount of money or a small amount of money, usually $20, $30, to some libraries in which I know that have an extensive lending library. And so I'm in Washington, D.C. There's one in Tampa, Florida there, and they have fantastic, because it goes through the whole state. And I will pay as an outside person for that benefit of using their lending library. Next one. All right, for students right there, one of the things that Dr. Ari talked about, the different types of calendar software available. For our students, that's one of the main things really they have problems with. A lot of times, how do they keep track? How they do task management issues? And so one of the things that we tell them is there are a variety of different ways you could do that. You can do it manually on the phone right there, but you can also put things on that work with a number of the options. They work with the accessibility features on that. Next one. Okay. Evernote's one of the more popular ones right there. The wonderful thing I like about Evernote is, again, it allows multiple features. If you have it, you can write on it. You can type on it. You can say things to it. You can do pictures basically with reminders on it. It's really flexible on how that you can put different reminders, take a look at things, different ways that you could put tasks in there, and on that. Next one. Google Calendars is probably the one that's known the most, that one and Outlook, because both of them are easily transferred to basically, if you have sync on with your regular computer or sync on, they can transfer and go and follow you from place to place with the cloud. Next one. I have students, if you have students with anxiety disorders or students who personality disorders, students with depression, I also encourage students to take a look at a number of different ways in which they can use apps on their phone to help with their emotional health, help with their daily health. And so we'll have different ways of looking at tracking different parts of their daily life. So next one. Okay. Breathe to Relax is one of the apps, and there are a ton of meditation ones. There's a ton of breathing ones. Can you still hear me, Dr. Ari?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. I had a message that it muted. Okay, so the basic what is breathing. There's a number of phones that do breathing exercises. There's a number of phones which basically persons, if they're having some anxiety, if they're just needing time out. And so everything from relaxation, where someone would do a guided relaxation, to ones in which you actually practice breathing yourself, and it keeps track of it. So you can actually take a look at basically your breathing rhythm. And it's really nice. Mood trackers are another way. When students tell me that I'm working with students who think they have bad days, or they're having days in which they can't get focused, one of the things I like to do is would say, are you willing to put some experimentation in this? And so what Mood Trackers does is there's a variety of them. And some of them are as simple as just faces on, and several times a day it will come up and just say, what is your mood? Or you can pull it up manually and say, what is your mood at that time if you want to. We have some that are more basically advanced, so that not only it tells you what the mood is, but also what are you doing at that time. And what we're looking for is we're looking for a series. If we can find things in which they're most productive, find things that are there, what are they doing? What are the things about that that are better than others? And so hopefully what we can do is we can start setting some cycles up for them so that they know that they find themselves not being focused in school, or they find themselves being really down about this, or find themselves, where did they go that the mood was elevated, and did that work again? It also helps to see where people who say that to me that they've been down a lot, they actually see, oh no, my mood varies a lot. And actually it really does. I'm more better in the evening than there. Then that may be the one you want to study, or that may be your time of focusing. So next one. This is another type of mood tracker. Basically, again, instead of it there, you can actually set the intensity of the bars so that the person's not only can it does the mood, basically the anxiety level, mood, depression there, but also set the intensity, and pretty awesome. Next one. Okay. Screen readers, again, we talked over right there, is again important right there, because again, you can have everything read aloud to you. I encourage students there. Students may or may not use this. Again, anything that we're doing with this is an adaptive technology. The only thing we do is we open the door. We show the door right there. And then sometimes we may reminders, did you basically try this? Well, no. Well, why not? I didn't want to hear it. Okay, did you put your headphones in on that one? All right, next one. All right. Speech recognition. As much as I want to say that I don't want my students to use their phones to write their papers, I'm losing that battle. Now with mobile office and a number of features, students have the ability to totally write their papers on their phones. So one of the things that I always do is show them, again, how to not only to type it, if they don't have a keyboard or they're not going to do their little thumbs right there, but voice recognition. All of these have voice recognition bars, and some of you've already probably used that when you're doing search commands or when you're looking for something or you're doing internet search, you probably hit that microphone. And so we do a lot. I also encourage them to use their phones for when they get ideas or when they are getting things like if they're in a library and they're reading something and something comes out that really stands out. I say, don't take a moment of just trying to type it or try it there. Get your phone and quickly do a quick note, okay, or quick journal where you found it, because the moment that you don't, you're going to forget it. And so it's not only to write papers, but more importantly, how to just really catch things in time, how to look at things in time, how to do ideas is great for brainstorming. I think that's the last slide. Cool. All right. How are we doing? What questions do you have? Has this been beneficial?
Any questions or comments? And I also type my email address in the chat box. It is Arslan, ARSLANAI @mailbox.sc.edu. If you will have any questions, if you want to come to our center and to explore some assistive technologies or virtual reality and the lots of the assistive technology tools and softwares, please send us an email. Okay, Melissa has a question. She asks, how do you access the free speech recognition in Windows?
Windows actually has a great speech recognition. The lower ones are better, and they are also in the settings command. Okay, and they're in the settings command on speech recognition. Or if you want to, just to Contra or in that search, and just put speech recognition, and it will come up. The Microsoft one has also a tutor in which you can use and go through. And Dr. Ari and I will be having a future presentation on speech recognition, and we're going to talk about all the different types of speech recognition, the free versus the cost ones. At one point in time, we used to say Dragon Naturally Speaking was one of the main ones, but for those who don't know, Dragon Naturally Speaking has been purchased by Microsoft. And so now they own the rights to Dragon Naturally Speaking. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens from there.
Yeah, our webinar about the speech recognition will be in May 21st at 1 p.m. It is in the Center for Teaching Excellence event calendar. You can go ahead and enroll in if you are interested in. Okay, Michael has a question. Are there functions for Microsoft Office that work across phones, laptops, and online?
Microsoft Office has made some really impressive approaches to using Microsoft Office for phone. There's also, by the way, some Microsoft Office clones that are basically really good for the phones right there, and they're working it. They're not going to be identical, okay, because the computer basis has more memory, has a bigger screen, and truncated as well is there. Some students will have to learn about the settings or how to learn the menus. Okay. If you did not know, Microsoft Office is free on the phone, especially for us for 360, because we're faculty and students. Did that answer your questions? And I see Susan typing.
Okay, Susan asks, or no, she makes a comment. Two things that jumped out to me. Using cheap burner phones is an excellent thought. Trying the speeds and realizing you hear much faster than you read. is a good activity.
And most people don't recognize that, and that's really a surprise to them. I've been actually doing this for many years, and if it's no surprise, if you ever work with a student who has a visual disability who uses talking books, or a student who's blind, you will listen to how fast that they read, and that's because your ears pick it up. Your eyes actually slow you down. And cheap accessibility is where I live, because students basically cannot, although again, they're buying phones that I dream of. And this is another way of doing it. Okay, can you tell them when the speech recognition webinar is again? Oh, you did. All right, great. Again, I have never bought a phone that costs more than $40. One, because I'm cheap, but because I'm always looking for that lowest cost. We do have access to our phones there. Our lab, actually, if you want to come and see the high cost stuff, come to our lab.
And I also include the link, registration link for the speech recognition webinar. It is in the chat box.
And I have been doing speech recognition since literally the early 90s. So I'll tell you all about the goods and the bads.
Okay, Michael has another question. Do these same alt text and headings in Word and PowerPoint benefit on the phone apps? Are there any specific capabilities with these functions?
Great question. And the answer is, I don't know. Alt tags are universal, and they should be working the same way, and they should be working with that. But Dr. Ari, if you will take a note and remember that, I will look it up.
We need to look at it. That's a great question, Michael. This is one thing that we need to explore.
Great. Now I have homework. In theory, yes, but nothing works in theory, I've found out with technology. Yeah. Again, I encourage you, if you've not used your phones and you've not worked with phones basically in class and introduce your phones in class, I really encourage you. Your students may use them anyway. I use phones a lot in class, where I'll have students, again, they could write, they could take notes, but more importantly, I have them actively looking on stuff on phones. So they actually, by the time they get tired of their phones, really on that, and say, please, no more phones, Dr. Dawson. I will tell you that accessibility is improving every day, and we're seeing that. Okay, what's it say?
Melissa said, for that, hear much faster than you read. That is very, very true. I am both vision and hearing impaired, and sometimes I struggle to keep up with reading. Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. I hope the tools and the features that we present today will help you. And please feel free to reach us if we can help you anyway.
Yeah, when we get to voice recognition, we're going to show you how your fingers slow you down.
Questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Michael is my colleague.
Excellent.
Most probably during the conference exams, I asked lots of questions about accessibility. Thank you for attending, Michael.
Yeah, and thank you all again for encourage you to try out the phones, experiment with them, see what works, see what doesn't, see what problems you have, and then quite honestly, bring them into class. And if you're working with students right there, first day to second day, tell them bring out their phones.
And if you need the recording of this webinar, please enter your email address to the chat box, or you can email me. So I will be happy to share when it is up on our YouTube channel with the closed captions. Any other questions or comments? Melissa is typing. You are welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Please feel free to email us if you have any questions, or if we can do anything for you or for your students.
Please fill out the evaluation. Let us know if there's something we're doing right or anything that we can improve on.
Michael is on his phone now. Yeah, another thing that you can enjoy to spend the time. Okay, if you don't have any questions, so I wish you a happy weekend and enjoy your weekend, enjoy the nice weather. And we hope to see you next time in our speech recognition webinar. Stop recording.